Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of Builds with Hades. Just making sure I'm not muted. Today we have another tank. I haven't done one since my Rhino build. This one was designed particularly to stomp through missions. So it's not necessarily a nest build, but it is designed to be able to help you defeat a lot of the missions in the game. After you have all of these parts, this build would pretty much defeat anything except like the main bosses of the game. But you can definitely kill like mini bosses and go even through very long missions with this build, and we're gonna see why. So we're using not one but two of the Walter Coral rifles. This rifle is a beast. Now, if you don't see it too much, it's probably because of its weight and incredibly high energy load. The weapon also has three types of shots. The normal one, that is the one that you primarily are going to use. A charged one that hits a good deal of damage. And then the third one, which is like a red Kamehameha kind of deal, which you will most likely never use in PvP. But in PvE, there is definitely a space for it, right? It does tons of damage. So you will want to use that. Again, if you're also playing in the nest and you are playing a 3v3, maybe you can go ahead and once you respawn, grab somebody by surprise with these things and destroy them. But other than that, an interesting thing about this build is about this weapon is that it has 180 total rounds, which is very respectable. This is because the third shot, the charged one, actually spends a lot of rounds. Like in a single shot is maybe like 10-15 rounds. I will see now that we are in the training mode, but if you don't use that, then you effectively have 180. So this build actually has two of the Coral rifles, so you effectively have 360 of those shots, and they do hurt. They hit 405 per shot. They have other interesting qualities. The projectile speed is very quick. The direct hit adjustment is pretty high for a laser weapon. Decent rapid fire, incredible range at 940. And you can see that it doesn't have ideal range. It's because the effective range is the ideal range. So you do get almost 1,000 of range on this thing. So as you can imagine, this pair of weapons will let you do a lot of damage in missions. You can basically beat missions just using this too. Now for the missile, for the back, I'm using the plasma missiles. These ones are very efficient, particularly against AC enemies or even players. They're very difficult to dodge. They do good area of effect damage. And decent damage for what they are. They're very lightweight when it comes to energy weight for what they are, so they are a very, very efficient weapon, also having a lot of total rounds. So as you can see, this build, it is built thinking of missions, so rounds is a big thing for this build. Additionally, we're carrying a Coral Shield, which will let you not only, you already have almost 18k of life of AP and 2600 attitude stability, but now with the Coral Shield you'll be able to reduce the damage that you received up on about 50%. So between that and the Pull Shield you have a lot of HP, right? The head that we are using just for the looks in this case is the Varial, although it does have pretty good AP values and decent attitude stability. But if you would like to go for like more AP, you can always use the Basho, sacrificing 100 of attitude stability. You can increase your attitude stability using the Mind Beta if you would like to do that change, sacrificing defensive values, etc. Like the head can come and go. It's not an important part of this build. The core, it's important because of the massive generator output adjustment, which is needed for this build. As you can see, even with that huge amount of 122, we are still barely capping at 2800, and that is because both the Coral rifles and the Coral Shield are extremely expensive when it comes to energy consumption. The Tian Quan arms, even if they are not the best ones out there, they're the only ones that can actually carry these two monster of the weapons at the same time. If you can see, if I change to anything else, it's not gonna make it. We could use the VEs, but then we're sacrificing firearm specialization, which we would like to have it as high as possible to make it easier for us to connect. It's not too much what we lose, so if you would like to trade the arms and use these ones instead, just take into consideration you would be sacrificing energy supply efficiency and firearm specialization, right? But it is also a possibility, plus it looks super cool. I'm actually thinking about it, like, just because of the looks, it looks so cool. Anyhow, then you could use the salad, but the salad has also less firearm specialization and pretty much red all around, just a few defensive values. Basically, they are the most competent arms I thought I could put on these things, the Tianguang, so that's what they are there. Finally, the Bornemisa, the tank legs, because this build is very heavy and pretty much nothing else will carry it and give you benefits. Maybe a couple of legs like this one, but again, everything's red. You can see that you're not really gaining a whole lot of anything. Plus, you're sacrificing speed. Why would you want to do that? Sorry. So we are using the tank legs, although we don't have a lot of like vertical ability with this build. If you would like to have a little more verticality, then just go ahead and use one of the heavier legs. Like this one will give you a bit more ability to boost vertically, because then you can equip a booster, right? You can use anything that will help you fly around more. But for the mission so far, I have been doing very good with the Bornemisa. Then for boosters, of course, nothing, because the legs do not allow it. The FCS, we are using the Walter 001 because it is the most complete when it comes to the overall... Actually, I don't know why I'm using the Walter 001. Let me see here for a second. Yeah, 7248. I would sacrifice here 5090. I'm thinking about it. Long range assist is 260 meters plus. Yeah. Medium range is going to be most of your fights, especially against other players. It's going to be medium range, which is 130 to 260. So that's why we have that one there. The only one that has higher medium range has way too low of long range assist. Instead, it has a bit more of close range. But you can see, compared to what we are using, we do have more close range, we do have more long range assist, and we're just sacrificing 8 of medium range. So I guess that's why that's there. And finally, the generator is the 20C. This one is because it has the second higher energy firearm spec to power up our Coral rifles. And finally, the pulse armor that we are going to be using in conjunction to the Coral shield, so that we can tank even more. So you're doing a lot of consistent damage and you're also tanking a lot. So let's go ahead and see how this performs. What are the damage values that we're looking for, we're using, right? Just so you know, the build was not designed for PvP, but we're going to give it a shot. Because it is very consistent, so I'm pretty sure that with 2 of these giant weapons we will be able to destroy some players too. So when it comes to damage, 465 each shot. It's a lot for how much ammunition you have and how much range you have. Like as you can see, you can pretty much like spam this thing. Like they overheat very slowly for how amazing this weapon is. So each shot at 465 or 68, if we do the first charge, then we get almost 1800. And if you do the final charge, which obviously you won't be using this in PvP because it would be a little ridiculous, but you will use it in PvE if you're using missions, that will effectively just disintegrate anything that you shoot this at with, right? Let's see with full HP how much it would eat. It is a lot of damage and it does a lot of impact too, so if you're able to actually stun an enemy and then shoot with that charge shot, it's gonna hurt. So that's basically for your main weapons, and then you are using the plasma missiles, which are very difficult to dodge. They hit around 700. They do a little area of effect, so very useful in missions. And since they're very difficult to dodge, they're also very useful against players. And finally, we're using our Coral shield. So this is how you're going to use it. The Coral shield will mitigate damage, right, while you're getting shot. So you can see here, this missile's 244. But while you have your coral shield, your opponent's damage is gonna be reduced by a considerable amount. Just take into consideration your stagger bar, the yellow thing over there, is still gonna keep building up. So when you think that you're about to get staggered, this is what you're gonna do. Come on, buddy, stagger me. Okay, he's a little slow. But when you think you're about to get staggered, then you turn it off, you turn on your pulse cannon. Your pulse shield, which is your extension, right? And after that's gone, then you can turn it on again. That way, what you're doing is you're effectively recycling the shield, extending the duration of it by a lot. So that guy's dead. So let's go ahead and try it in the nest. The build is simple. You just have to take into consideration that mechanic with the shield, right? You activate the coral shield, you fight with it on all the time while you're shooting your 2 lasers and missiles constantly, right? As soon as you're about to get staggered, you turn it off. You get staggered, you turn on your pulse armor, and as soon as that one's up, you turn on your shield again. That effectively will buy you a whole lot of time while you're tanking, right? That the opponent won't be able to do much about it. And you're already a tank, so you already have pretty respectable AP values. So yeah, while you're doing a lot of constant damage, just try not to overheat the weapons. It's difficult to overheat them, but if you don't pay attention, you might end up doing it, and that would suck because you only have 3 weapons in reality, right? But it is a very defensive, and it does good damage. Like, honestly, it's not like the highest damage you've ever seen, but it does good damage, and you can bring down enemies pretty easily. In the arena, you could pretty much destroy the whole arena with this build for sure. You can see the damage that I'm tanking with the shield. Pay attention to it. If you want to dodge, remember to never dodge with your shield on. You turn it off and then dodge, right? Like I just did. I'm about to get staggered, so I'm gonna turn off the shield. I get staggered and turn on my pulse shield. I keep fighting, and as soon as my pulse shield is done, I turn on the coral shield again. So that way you can effectively tank just way too much damage. While being able to use your 2-hand weapons, that's something that the Scudam shield, which is actually one of my favorite things in this game, does not allow you to do. Like, you can use the shield while you're shooting your all 3 weapons, instead of just like negating all of your left arm weaponry just for the sake of using a shield, right? The build, this build is one of the builds that I've been using to go through missions, unless there's like a very specific final boss or anything. Like, this build will take you through most missions pretty easily, honestly. Like, you tank a lot of damage, you do a lot of damage, you have a lot of ammunition. It just makes it easy, honestly. It just makes it so much easier. Unless it's one of those missions where you have to have a specific build, this thing will take you through them. So that's the code. Write it down if you want to give it a try. The build is very consistent. I'm very happy with the result, and that's what I wanted to share. Now we are gonna go ahead and try it at least once in the nest and see if we can actually beat somebody else with it, right? So there you have it, and you can see, for example, these are my 2 main builds. Those are my 2 personal builds. I use this one with the oscillator nuke combo and a couple of pistols with a high energy generator, and the other one is indeed a Scudam shield build with the Wally legs, which I have the Gold Rush this one Gold Rush is like a downgraded version of my main my main build. I had so much fun with this build that I ended up polishing even more, and I did the Bastion, which is like an improved version of it, using actually the same laser that we're gonna be using right now, the Coral rifle, right? So without further ado, let's go ahead and find somebody to play. So let's go. We have Garuda here. Double sniper rifle, and ooh, that looks, it's a lot of explosive damage in the back. Sniper rifles against our Coral Terminator. So he is gonna try to stun me and then connect with the javelin. So he has an interesting build. I understand the map. Let's see if it works against my build, because he has kinetic weapons that are sniper rifles, but I mean my weapons are pretty ranged too. So there he is. Oh wow, those are difficult to dodge. Thankfully he's not really using his explosive launcher at the correct range. And again, we are a tank, so he's gonna need a lot more than that to be able to, like... We're gonna bring down the shield. This is because we are bringing down the stagger bar. As you can see, slow and steady wins the race. Slow and steady brings a race. So yeah, that's what you'll be doing if you want to use this build in PvP. Like, unless you get one of those extremely aggressive, extremely skilled, double Zimmerman, double stun pistol Japanese players with high-speed dodging. I mean, pretty much anybody else who is an average, above average player like myself is going to be able to, is going to struggle a bit against this build. He is getting me in range to his explosive. I have to turn off my shield. Turn on. That hurt. But I still have a lot more HP than you, my friend. I turn off the shield so that if I get stunned, I don't lose it. There we go, that hurt. Now we turn it on again. And GG. Slow and steady wins the race with this build. A lot of ammunition, a lot of HP, a lot of tanking. Most builds, unless they're like extremely high damage or like an open map like Watchpoint Delta, like with missiles, like other than that you should be fine with this build. So thank you again for watching, guys. I see you around. Let me go ahead and tell this guy GG, and that was it for today's video. So thanks for watching, and GG.